Hello, everybody. It's Aaron from the Double After Hours podcast. Here's a little flashback to June 16th, 2023, and the Double-A Revolving Door Show era with our interview of Brice's dad, Bobby Gus. Enjoy.
You're in tune with Detroit's only local station, WPON, Walled Lake, Detroit.
Talking Oldies. WPON.
Hello, welcome back to our second hour, and, 5 minutes after our second hour, but hey, there we are.
Yep.
Welcome back to the Double-A Revolving Door Show. It is time for our special guest.
True.
Yes. We have the great, the one and only, Bobby G.
Great to be here. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, this is my dad.
Yes.
Live on the radio with me.
We don't know how this is going to go, huh?
No, we don't.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was appropriate because Guitar Great special. Let's have the guitar player himself come in.
There you go.
Right on.
Right on, indeed.
I'm glad to be here. I think Guitar Greats is an excellent topic.
Oh, yeah.
And Aaron, shout out to your Aunt Susan.
Yeah.
You know, Twisted Sister got me playing back in the
yeah.
day, so I could appreciate hearing that. That was wonderful.
Yeah, they listened to all that kind of stuff back in the day, too.
Love it.
Yep. Dad was afraid of that Alice Cooper album they had.
Alice is my favorite. I'd have to say if I picked one favorite, that would be Alice. He's the man with a woman's name.
Exactly. There you go. Oh, yeah. It's so funny. I've enjoyed his show that he's actually been doing recently. It's on Sunday nights. I used to listen to it after work. I still listen to it now, but yeah.
Very funny, great stories. The dude's a legend. I mean, he goes back to Groucho Marx, you know. So he's like this kind of this reach back in history, and I don't think there's anybody else that has that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And not to mention, his albums has introduced us to just tons of great guitar players. I mean, you know, from Dick Wagner, Steve Hunter, the original Alice Cooper band, you know, Glenn Buxton and Michael Bruce, and all the way through the 80s with a guy I love named Kane Roberts. Yep. And now he's got Hurricane, Nita Strauss, Ryan Roxy, Tommy Hendrickson. So he's always surrounded himself with incredible guitar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of great talent there, too. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
My only thing to add is that Alice Cooper was on The Muppet Show one time.
Oh, yes,
It was a great episode, though.
Yes.
Like, I love the way to design, like, all the puppets, because, like, there was one thing where he was, like, coming out of a crypt and stuff. It was awesome. I watched that all the time as a kid.
Yes.
That's how I learned about Alice Cooper. That's my only contribution.
That's all you got?
A worthy
Kermit
one.
the Frog.
That was great. He was trying to get Kermit to sell him his soul. You know?
That's right.
Yep. That's
good
awesome.
stuff.
I want your soul.
That's awesome. So I had a question for you. So how did you get your start in music? And like,
you know, boy, by never stopping, always. So when it took me over, when it became apparent that guitar was something that really just I had a passion for, then it came to a point where no matter what the situation, anybody that could use me playing it, I would do it. So I'd put myself in any and every situation to play guitar. Yep. And it was great, and it still is, really. And it just kind of, what happens is you get better, and opportunities start to present themselves because more people see it. So it's really, I think it's just a lesson for whatever your passion is. You really need to throw yourself into it and be there no matter what. Then you get better and the opportunities present itself. So, and hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. So if you had to pick, let's say five of your favorite artists of all time, who would they be?
Artists or?
Yeah. Artists, guitar players.
All right, that's pretty fun. I will say Alice Cooper. So again, he covers a ton of great guitar players. Steve Morris is a guitar hero of mine, and probably the only guitar player that's ever moved me emotionally with his playing. I just absolutely love him. Zakk Wylde, I love that guy. He's just this brutal heavy metal,
Right,
great
yep.
guitar player. And when he came out with Ozzy in '87, '88, that was really pivotal because I was just a young guitar player looking for someone to grab onto, and there was just something about his style that it just like meshed with where I was going. And so I have a great place in my heart for Zakk Wylde. If I have two more artists, I might have to think about it, to tell you the truth. But yeah, maybe there's just not two more artists.
Maybe not.
Well,
There you
let's
go.
throw Twisted Sister in there.
Okay.
Eddie Ojeda was the guitar player with the pink and black bullseye guitar. And when I saw that guitar in the We're Not Gonna Take It video, that immediately started my lust for guitars.
Right. Yep.
My
Yep.
need to look at guitars. I thought that was the coolest guitar in the world. And, so then that with a great guitar solo he did. So, yeah, I'll put them in there. But I'll think of my fifth one, and
your
maybe
fifth
by
one,
the
okay.
end of the show I could think, 'cause it's kind of exciting to think about too, all
Right.
these people that have been really big in where I go now.
Yeah, for sure. So, Brice, you've been getting into like guitar and stuff.
Yes.
And you've had like the master teacher.
Yes.
Right. So, tell us a little bit about that. Like how did you want to start getting into like guitars and stuff? Because it came a little bit later in life.
Yeah. So later in life, as I'm like 15.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Of the way. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So I've always loved like looking at and like hearing guitars because of my dad and because of the music I grew up with. I can remember watching just on repeat just a DVD of Twisted Sister's music videos with my dad all the time.
Yep.
As a kid, and that just from there kept me going. When me and my dad discovered, prog artists like Neil Morris and Flying Colors and Spock's Beard and all that, that kept my love for like rock music going. And then it was last summer. I was at one of the Fajola camps I was at. It was senior high camp. I was sitting there, and just for whatever reason, I got just a strange inclination. I've never truly given that Slash guy a chance. I know my friend Wally always
Right.
loves listening to him. So that's when I first decided to listen to Slash, and I was like, there's something different about this guy's guitar playing, and I love it, and I want to learn to play like this guy. So that's why I love Slash so much, is not only because his music is great, but because that was the key inspiration that I needed to get going on guitar.
Yeah. So that thing that just clicked, right? Okay.
I was like, wow, this is something I can, someday down the road, like see myself doing. This is awesome.
Right. Just found a calling in life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
I have like nothing.
Yeah, I know you have like nothing to add.
I am like when it comes to music, I make this very blatantly obvious. I'm like a theater kid. Guitar
Yeah.
stuff, not my expertise. I'm just gonna let y'all talk and just go,
I agree.
that's cool, man. I love like the whole like finding your calling with art and stuff. I relate to that a lot. Like I just think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff. So, what are your favorite like? Let's get into like guitars and stuff. Talking about like specifics. So, what are your favorite like guitar models and stuff that you like you see like? I gotta have that.
All of them.
Yeah,
All of them.
exactly.
Right.
The guitar producers have really realized that they have a golden goose of whatever they put out. we'll
Right.
Probably
Yep.
really a passion has always been recording, and so guitars now I look at them like the tools in the toolbox, and so I tend to favor classic models. So I love Gibson, Fender, and Gretsch.
Yep.
And they all have such vastly different characteristics. I love hearing what they're each supposed to do. And between those three, they come up with enough things that you'd never have to go anywhere.
Right.
But I do, I have a love for Ernie Ball Music Man guitars as well, just because of the Steve Morris collection, connection there. So, I have, I think, when I bought his model guitar, his signature guitar, that was a great moment, so I love that. And but mostly the classic stuff, I love the Gibson, Fender, Gretsch.
Yep. Yeah. Those are great brands too. Yeah, good stuff. I've been sticking with Epiphone. I have Epiphone guitars. I got a Fender that was signed by the entirety of The Life is a Highway people.
Oh, Rascal Flatts.
Yeah, Rascal
there
Flatts.
you
That's
go.
it. That's
Car
it.
soundtrack.
Car soundtrack. Exactly. Something you hate.
It all comes back to cars.
Oh, it goes back to cars.
It's the gift that keeps on taking.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it was completely signed by them, and it's one of my things I kind of have like hanging up. It's just kind of a cool
Nice.
thing to have. So, but my grandfather had a Gibson that it was acoustic from '65. Beautiful condition, perfect. Like it is like perfect, and it is in the case, and it's been up there ever since. So
But it's still
yeah.
accessible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Very nice.
For
man.
sure, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been kept in great shape, and I'll break it out every once in a while, and it's just that it's the Gibson Hummingbird.
Oh,
and it's just
yes.
a beautiful sound to it.
Yes.
Too. So
It'd be weird if a hummingbird didn't have a beautiful sound. Like it was like an ostrich. I don't know, man. I'm drawing a blank.
the comic relief.
I'm just trying to entertain, man.
Dad, don't you have a guitar signed by somebody?
Ooh.
Oh, I have a Kramer signed by Alice Cooper. In fact.
That's awesome.
Yes. That, and it wasn't some eBay purchase from some dude buying the pick guard and getting them all
Right.
signed. No,
Yep.
this was right in person. I got to meet him back when he was doing his Trash tour in '89, and that was pretty fun. I got
that's
his
awesome.
autograph.
That's awesome.
Me and my dad were trying to count how many Alice Cooper concerts you've been to.
Yeah.
It was in the 20s.
Yeah, it gets
Whoa.
it's like it gets fuzzy between the 15-20 mark, but it was a lot of great shows, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been to 2 of them with you.
There you go. Yeah, and more on the way. I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. So you do music outside, like you go to like have gigs and everything.
Yes.
What would you say is like, since we love talking about funny stuff here on our show, what would you say is like the craziest moment that's ever happened? Or is there too many to count?
Well, I'm trying to think of crazy moments or just what's super embarrassing or whatever, and I don't know. Luckily, I don't think there's ever been something so crazy. You see some crazy things going on out in the audience and stuff. But I try and be prepared so that nothing too drastic happens, So I don't think that there's anything that would be such a great story, sadly. Stupid things happen. I if I break a string on stage, I take great pride in seeing how quickly I can replace it without anybody noticing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I want to get credit for it, so I'll do it, make sure that everybody sees how quickly I do it. But anyways, there's nothing that makes a great story, sadly. I wish there was.
Oh, that is impressively replacing it. I tried to replace strings one time. Brice knows this very well.
Yep.
And fun times with trying to do that and not knowing how to do it. But
Well, you get good after a while, trust me.
Yeah, for sure. So what was it like for like the first time being up on stage and like in front of everybody?
It's absolutely wonderful. It's great. It's funny. I guess you got to be kind of attention seeking.
Yeah, for sure.
And even the guys that pretend they're not, you don't get up there without wanting attention.
Right.
And the funny thing is I was just talking to some younger players recently that were doing their first show, and I watched them put their guitar on, and there's something about it where even after all these years and all these gigs, man, when you throw a guitar over your shoulders and then you go out and it's loud, it's just, I don't know, it's almost like the first show every single time, to tell you the truth. It's always exciting, and it really is. And I think if there's a difference, thinking about the first show, it's the absolute nervousness you have of maybe not wanting to make a mistake, and all those types of things. And that kind of goes away, and I think the better you get, or the more you just want to push yourself, and so it almost doesn't matter if you make a mistake, because you're trying to do something in the moment that you hear in your head and just go for it. And so it's almost like when you first start, you don't want to make a mistake, and when you've done it for a while, you're ashamed of yourself if you don't make a mistake, because that means you didn't push hard enough.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I remember I was listening, I forget who it was, but I was listening to, it was a live performance, and afterwards, like, they were like, oh yeah, I made so many mistakes during that, and I was like, I couldn't even tell. Like, I had no idea you were ever making any kind of mistakes here. So
That's a big part of it too. I think
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing because you've got enough under your belt that you know how to cover yourself up.
Right.
I took that too from Richie Blackmore, another absolute monster on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like people that don't make mistakes because he doesn't think they're trying hard
Right.
enough. You know, which I would argue that because if you're thinking of like Joe Satriani or Steve Vai. Well, they've practiced enough, maybe not to make
Right.
mistakes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wouldn't say they're not trying. That's for sure.
Right.
And he might not have said not trying. He said they're not searching in the moment. So whatever he said, I'll agree with, just because he intimidates me.
Yeah, fair enough. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Ted Nugent. So I want to talk about Ted Nugent. So, Brice and I went to go see him in concert,
Yes.
and he also released that new album, Detroit Muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get your thoughts. Did you listen to the album, of course?
Yeah. Was it Detroit Muscle?
No, that was Alice Cooper's album, Detroit Muscle. It was
No, Alice
was.
Cooper
It
did have
was
Detroit Muscle.
Stories in Detroit Muscle.
Yeah,
I always
because-
get him
I'm
confused
looking
because
this up.
Yeah,
Alice Cooper had like the Motor City Muscle Tour or something.
and his shirt said Detroit Muscle, so it kind of I'll tell you something when it comes to Ted. And it's so exciting because he is a guy that just goes for it.
Yeah.
And this is only like within the last, 5 years. I remember I was watching an interview where Sammy Hagar was interviewing Ted Nugent, and Ted was just sitting there with a guitar, and he just starts playing Stranglehold, right? Mm-hmm. But the difference, and I think this is even one of the differences, like with a guitar hero, someone like Ted Nugent, when the dude was playing, he started like, and you could tell he wasn't doing it for show. He started like snorting like a bull, like getting ready to impale somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could just see it, like the way he was breathing. It was like this warrior thing was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it wasn't a show. It's a way he transfers everything
Yeah.
to those notes on the guitar.
Just channels it, yeah.
Yeah, and I love seeing that, man. I love him for doing it. Ted Nugent's awesome, and he's still doing it. The albums are still great.
Yeah.
The guitar playing is still great.
Yeah.
And he's another guy that's got that history, of going back to the soul, And
Right.
I mean, he was coming up in Detroit, during the Motown years,
Mm-hmm.
and so he had all that soul backing him up, but then that blue collar sound that was going on here just really kind of put things over the top as
Yep.
the 60s were coming to a
Yep.
close, and I'm glad he was part of that, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the early stuff with Amboy Dukes, too,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just kills it.
Yep.
Absolutely kills it. And,
Absolutely.
it's great to still see that he continues to do great work.
Yeah. He will never get the place in history that he deserves.
Mhm.
He with what he did with guitar, I feel like he kind of, he kind of had that Hendrix thing where there was something there so special that was going on only in Detroit, and he was at the forefront of it. And then as the 70s were rolling on, man, he just brought it home.
Yeah,
Just
for sure.
a great guitar player.
Yeah. Speaking of, you actually mentioned Jimi Hendrix. What is, would you say is your favorite, techniques that people use when they're playing guitar? Because I know, Hendrix had the whole, the teeth picking thing, which I think is fantastic. I love watching that clip of him doing it.
Yeah.
But what would you say is, your favorite?
Wow. Boy, that's a good question. I love, that's a really good question. What's my favorite? I really enjoy people that kind of set me up with kind of something nice and maybe just the guitar screaming, right?
Right.
And so it's not like it's fast, it's screaming. But then when they go into something that's kind of quick and they get into it and get out of it,
Right.
and it makes me go what just happened?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I enjoy that kind of stuff, and like Brice mentioned, Nuno Betancourt, I think is great at doing stuff like that. And there's a lot of them. There's, a guy that maybe I'll pick him as my fifth from, the Detroit scene, another guy, Dick Wagner, who had a lot to do with Alice Cooper in the after the original band broke up. He's got that kind of stuff where you can sing the solo and then all of a sudden you can't.
Right.
But then in a moment you can again. And so I like surprises. So I don't know if that would be an actual technique, but
Right.
I like when guitar players like kind of surprise me. It makes me think that they're thinking, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of some other good questions. I had a list, but I kind of went through those. So it's fun. It's fun thinking of things live.
How's the wife and kids?
There you go.
I did
You
ask
ask your
The
question.
first time you can genuinely ask that to our
I do,
guests.
exactly. Finally.
Yeah, they're good. It remains to be seen because I just got a report card for one of the kids.
Oh. Brice, what'd you do?
I don't know.
I didn't look yet. I figured I'd get through the show first.
So
Thanks,
you're admitting it was you?
baby.
You have a brother. Could have been him.
Could be.
You never know.
We'll never know.
I did actually look up what album you were talking about from Ted Nugent. It was Detroit Muscle.
There you go.
Nice.
Yep. He's our handy lookup man.
More than just entertainment.
Exactly. That'll be my contribution for this show because I cannot add to the conversation. So I will do what people need me to do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Charlie.
I try. Give me the spinoff. I want my own time slot.
So I know you play guitar. What was the song that like chimed in your ear that you thought, well, that's an instrument that needs to be looked at?
Yeah, so I started listening to a lot of rock and roll from my dad. My dad got me into rock, he got me into oldies, kind of like a wide genre. And I started collecting records and everything, and I started listening to them more and more, and I'm listening like to how these players are playing, and it was Revolution from the Beatles that really kind of kicked.
Yeah.
It's the single version, not the one from the White Album, the slow version of that song. But I started listening to that, and I just listened to just how he just cranks it and then just goes for it. And I was like, I'd love to learn how to play that. So I asked my parents for Christmas. I was like, hey, can I get a guitar? And they were like, yeah, sure. We'll go down to Motor City Guitar right down the road, and we'll pick you up a guitar. So I got my starter. As an LTD ESP and a Boss amp, and I was like,
the Katana?
The Katana.
Oh,
yep.
That's a great amp.
Yep. Yeah. And I just started going at it slow. I'm known as Freddie Von Whalen here.
What?
So you have Eddie Van Halen, and then you have Freddie Von Whalen. And so my parents will occasionally come in and are like, Freddie, knock it off. It's 2 a.m. And I'm
You
like,
should. They have to go to bed.
But that was really the thing that kind of kicked it off was even other artists too, like Van Halen. I started listening to a lot of Van Halen. Even like Led Zeppelin was a big one too, Pink Floyd. And it kind of that slow guitar. And then my dad started playing a lot more Ted Nugent. I was like, okay, I strive to be that. I can't be that now, but I'll strive to be that. Yes. And so, yeah.
Right on,
yeah,
man.
So,
That's good. Yeah, I got that. My dad was listening to good music in our house, too.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people my dad turned me on to good music, but my mom seemed to have the talent if she wanted to use it.
Yeah.
So hearing my father sing would hurt everybody. But he was the one, if we were, doing something working on the house, man, back in the day, come to think of it, the radio was what you'd listen to.
Right.
And, which is nice to be on a radio show.
Yeah.
And, so like, WRIF or WLLZ.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, I'm remembering like the Rat songs and Motley Crue and all that stuff coming on. I'm like, that sounds good.
Yeah, for sure. So we actually did a show not too long ago. We did a show about the Grandy Ballroom and how just crazy that scene was back in the 60s. Do you think something like that could come around again today or no?
It's pretty funny because that was before me. And I don't totally know the scene. I know the posters of the incredible bands.
Yeah. Yeah, for $5 a ticket, right?
And the one thing, when we look at it, it's easy to romanticize because when you see like Alice Cooper and Bob Seger and the Amboy Dukes and the MC5 on a ticket, you're like, man, I would have loved to have been there. But at the time, nobody knew who they were, so it's like, well, you kind of got the both ways of it. But I do believe that music scenes are still a thing, and so I think, when, I think the town, it might go different towns at different times,
Right.
If you want a great scene now, it's Nashville, and there'll probably be those posters that are going to show some names, and in 5 years, they're going to have platinum albums.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's still good. I like to, I don't know, I guess I keep a romantic hope that there's enough that's, just organic.
Yeah.
Because, not everything's organic, but, at the same time, I think that when it comes to art and music, that when people hear something, they don't have to be told to like it.
Yeah.
They're going to like it, and it can do something neat and build a scene.
Yeah. How easy would you say it is for maybe like an up and coming artist, if they wanted to like go into this kind of scene? How easy do you think it would be for new artists to kind of get out there? Because I'm sure it was much different way back when, but today it's more.
It's funny because on one hand, with Spotify, everybody can have their music out there.
Yeah.
So it's like before, you had to go into a studio and pay thousands of dollars to get something done, and then you had to figure out what to do with it. And now, you can spend $200 and have a studio in your bedroom, put it out on Spotify. So on one hand, you can think, well, the cream might rise to the top, but on the other hand, now the waters are so muddied.
Right.
And I'll tell you too, like as a musician, I think what is a good thing to look at is, you should have maybe a sliding scale of success, or at least like realize that success might not mean platinum albums, because when you realize, like, as a theater person, it's as easy to get people to hear your album as it is to get on Broadway.
Right.
Which is a billion people are trying to do it, so it's super hard. But if you get to make a living at it, you're probably right in the top like 2%. You know what I mean? So I'm not a household name, but getting to feed my family playing music,
Right.
is really cool. But it wasn't easy.
Right. There you go.
So, and it goes back to that whole thing of telling somebody, like, how hard is it? It's impossible. Right? But are you going to, so that means if I tell you it's impossible to make it in music, if you stop because I told you that, well, then you would have never made it in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
You should be like, what, it might be impossible, but that guitar calls my name and I have to play it no matter what. So I don't care if I'm delivering bread during the day, I get home and play guitar. That's fine with me.
Yeah, for sure. And solid advice too. Yeah. Solid advice for everyone out there. Hey, if you're an upcoming musician, this is good stuff right here.
Oh yeah.
Right on.
Good stuff to hear. So, oh my goodness. Wow,
It's
we've been
like
talking for a
5:30.
minute. Yeah, we have. We've been talking for a minute. So how would you say, like, the scene has changed? That organicness, we were talking about, like how organic things are. I've been listening to a lot of like newer like rock and roll and stuff, and even kind of dipping into like in the alternative kind of scene as well. Just talking about like alternative bands that are kind of trying to get into the rock and roll scene. Do you think they're trying to like push it too much, or like, for example, like a great alternative band is the Black Keys, the ones I listen to all the time, and they try like this blues / rock and roll, and like combinations like that. How do you feel like on those?
It's pretty funny because as like a purist from back in the day, when you find out there's a band with two people, you're like, what the heck are they doing? But the thing is it's the same thing with like the White Stripes, or Royal Blood, but what they've done is they've come at it from such a different angle and put the focus on something else that I think is brilliant when you look at it. Like when you listen to Black Keys and you hear what he's doing with the guitars.
Yeah.
I mean, that automatically it just grabs you, and it's almost like, I wouldn't call myself a fan of the band, but that is stuff that when it comes on the radio, I never turn it off.
Yeah.
I love hearing what they're doing. Jack White I think he's a genius. I think he's not like Ted Nugent on the guitar, but he's approached it from a way that what he gets out of that guitar, and he's just playing, with the White Stripes, two people, and they're able to do things like that. I think that's great. I think it's neat that people would step out on the edge that far.
Yeah.
Because most people, to kind of go back with that question, most people, they think in order to push it, they got to try and push we'll be more rebellious. It's like,
right.
So Elvis came out and like he was the craziest thing. And then the Beatles came out. That was crazy. Then the Stones. And then Alice Cooper said, I want to be worse than the Stones.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point, and I kind of feel like it was then, there's nowhere else to go with that. So be original,
Right.
Oh, we can push sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's like, wow, man, that's great. You're really something else. That's brave. But you go out there and you try and make a band with a drummer and I think that's where you're pushing boundaries and pushing what people think of bands, and they got rewarded.
Yeah, for sure.
it.
Yeah, and those bands, like, I know, like, Black Keys, they do crazy stuff, like we were mentioning, with the crazy stuff with the guitar and like the sounds and stuff. With their Rubber Factory album, they just went into an old Rubber Factory, grabbed all their equipment, cranked it up, and just went for it and just recorded it. And it sounded great. It kind of had that really wide, dynamic sound to it. And on the topic of that, what would you say works best if you're trying to make like a rock and roll song? If you're trying to like make a song, what do you think are like the crucial components for that?
Well, for a rock and roll song, probably the most crucial component is the attitude.
Okay.
It's just gotta have like a swagger. It's gotta have an attitude. And I think that's the point of rock and roll, And I also would say, like, that's where some things I think are going wrong now in the new digital era, because if you listen to rock and roll songs, and songs that will never go away, you listen to Brown Eyed Girl or Taking Care of Business or something, and like just the tempos themselves, they're going up and down,
Right.
Even into the 80s, I was trying to do I was recording a Skid Row song for Brice to sing, Brice and Blake, and I remember trying to track the tempo, and it's all over the map. And because what they did is they got bands into a room and they jammed the song.
Yeah.
And then Neil Young's famous for it. People think like, wow, that sounded sloppy, but he's like, I don't care. It was about the vibe.
Yeah.
The attitude. And I think like with all the digital equipment and everything being so separate, and you can do this at this time and then this at this time and change it here and there, which I'm guilty of and I love doing it. But I think that it loses a great, like you said with the Rubber Factory, that we're going to go in and we're going to record it like this.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal. The attitude, the swagger, the absolute just directness of you're getting them at that second right through your speakers.
Yeah.
And I think that can be heard.
Yeah. Another thing kind of going on with the digital era and everything. So with like analog tape and everything, and back in the day, obviously recording with all kinds of, big reels of tape and 1/4 inch and all that stuff. With the Beatles, they recorded their Strawberry Fields Forever, and they cut it perfectly on analog tape at just 1 minute, and like you can never that's a piece of cake with digital stuff, but back in the day it's like just trying to get it exactly right, and if you miss it, you missed it.
Yeah.
So what do you think, on the stance of like digital versus analog, where do you stand on that?
I love digital. Because I think, like, if you're trying to cut something at that minute and you screw it up and you can just hit undo.
Right. Yeah. It's the convenience.
Beautiful.
Right.
And, and I know people like that. There's a warmth. There really is truly a warmth to analog. There's the natural saturation, or like a distortion point that comes through in vocals and stuff.
Yep. Which
I think is great, but I would trade for the convenience of digital anytime. Yep. I think where we lost it again, is because when bands, are sending files to each other in different states, they're coming up with good stuff. And they're all playing great. The performances are great, but I think that whole thing of just getting everybody in a room, when you had to because it mattered, I think that might be what we lost. But but I love the digital
Loves the
recording.
digital era.
Yeah, I
So,
So
enjoy
like
it.
you think we lost the soul of it? Is like what you're trying to say?
Well, that's a good question. I wouldn't say the soul of it, because I think the soul of it comes from the creative, the creative outlet that an artist needs.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a connection with the audience that when there is a band in a room playing and it's captured, I think that might be a little bit lost.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have that, and it's not totally fair to say, because if you're a fan of a singer, you don't
Right.
care about the band. You just want the singer. And if that singer knows how to convey emotion, well, then he or she is going to connect anyways, But I guess, so I couldn't say the soul of it, but I think there is something that we had to give up in order for our convenience to take over.
Okay.
And, and I think it's tangible, but, there's still great music being recorded, so it's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair enough.
There you go. So a lot of artists have been like releasing their music, not only on like Spotify and Apple Music and everything, but they've also been kind of getting into the physical formats, with CD obviously still being around and is still relevant.
I mean, vinyl is more popular now. They've
That's-
finally outsold CDs again.
That's what I was getting to. So a lot of artists are starting to release stuff on like cassettes and vinyl and even 8-track. They were getting
Wait,
into
what?
Yeah, they were getting into 8-track too.
Are we gonna bring back Laserdisc too while we're at it?
I wouldn't be surprised, but so a lot of artists are trying to get back onto like these old formats. And what do you think about that?
Well, I'm glad to see it. I think there's a few things, because number one, holding an album is something that everyone should experience.
Yeah.
The artwork, reading what's going on, and just the albums feel great. They're wonderful. And the other thing about the album, and one thing I think we did lose that maybe the resurgence of vinyl will help, is albums that they used to be made as an album. Like you would come up with, say, 8 songs, 9 songs, and it would have to be cohesive.
Yeah.
Right? And you would put them in order, of the way you wanted to present this artwork, or a loose story, or whatever you want to call it, the way you want to hear it. And the thing we lost with Spotify and all that is people are just playing singles. Right.
Right, okay.
And that's
like the art of the concept album. Where
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, and it's not even the concept album is like that. That is that's hard to find now. But it's even like just any album anybody ever produced.
Okay.
Those songs, they had them in specific orders, and they wanted you to hear them a specific way, and they wanted you to listen to the whole thing.
Right.
And so the single era, that did kind of screw that up and end that, but. I'm hopeful that with this resurgence of vinyl, that people, that whole part of the art form will come back, and it's not just the 4-minute song. It's like,
Right.
oh, that's cool, and then it'll set you up for this. I'll listen to the next song,
Yeah.
see what
Yep.
they have too. So I'm glad. I think 8 tracks and cassettes are goofy.
Right.
They're just maybe you want to hold a cassette because you did when you were 15 or something.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I
Yep.
can get that, but they weren't very convenient.
Yeah.
8 tracks least of all.
Yeah.
CDs, I think they nailed.
Absolutely,
CDs are the greatest as far as I'm concerned. And
Yeah.
I still love hearing those. So yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people probably a lot of people still have, if you have an older car, you have the cassette decks in them. So mine does it. Mine was a couple years too late for that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I don't have a cassette deck in there, but I do have a CD player.
My truck doesn't even have CD players anymore.
Yeah,
it's just all
nothing.
digital.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
That's a lot of
tough.
reason.
I mean.
So what went through your head when you bought your car, Dad?
Yeah, well, that was-
Golly gee.
that's why I bought the car I have. Is it had a CD player.
Oh, okay.
It was a nice sound system, and so it's like 8 gallons to the tank. I don't care.
Right, there
Yeah.
you go.
A necessity that he had to have a CD player. I remember that.
It is, and I will tell you the funny thing is you really can hear a difference. Like if you want to talk analog and digital, I think there's subtle differences, but when you talk, if you're listening to a song streaming versus if you've got a CD player in the car,
Right.
it
Right.
makes a huge difference,
Yeah.
as to the sound of that, or if you listen to like Sirius XM, I think the music on that station sounds horrible. like I still listen to it, but it just doesn't sound good. If you listen to the CD, it's way different because everything's so compressed and sent through the ether and blah blah blah. You know,
that was one of my biggest issues with it, and like that's why I kind of want to go to the local radio and everything because, well, for one thing, it's live and local and everything, you know, getting around with the community, but I just think the satellite just has too many problems with it.
Yeah,
that just, you know.
It's so funny because if you want to sell somebody, just listen to like 30 seconds on your satellite radio and then click right over to the real radio and listen to a song, and it'll thump you right in the chest.
That's something I definitely noticed because I do door dashing on the side, as I've established, I think, on this show a little bit before, and like the different like vehicles in the family fleet that I use for whatever, like my truck, I basically only listen to local like FM or AM because I don't have Sirius in it. So it's like, all right, I'll support the local people.
Yeah, there you go. So, as a spec student, that makes me really happy.
Support the writers and then we'll agree. But anyway, but where I was going with this is that in the car I use for door dashing, it has Sirius. So it's been really interesting noticing like the little intricacies of satellite, as that's something I just didn't really pay attention to because when I went to college I didn't drive because I didn't bring a car, so I just kind of forgot about it. And just like how much like the satellite just cuts out randomly, and like I don't know if that's randomly because like I'm in like podunk nowhere delivering Tommy Bob a pizza, or if it's just generally an issue with the technology. It might be both, but it's just like, wow, this is cutting out, this is a little weird. And then like I hear it on like the FM or whatever, and I'm like, okay, this is different. But I haven't like probably played a CD in like, oh god, like maybe 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
like in a really long time, because I just, once we went to digital, I didn't turn back.
Right. Like when streaming is so convenient. That's the thing, is that convenience factor.
Like, and that's what gets me. If it's like, because music isn't my main passion in life. That's more writing and movies. So that's why I'm more like, I sometimes want to watch it on DVD or physical because blah blah blah. That's where I stand on that. But when it comes to music, it's just I am so like, I just want to turn it on my phone. I don't want to think about it. I have to drive or whatever. There's one less thing to think about, and that's where it gets you, you know. But I do understand the importance of like that sound, because sometimes you miss so much because of that. Like, it's even so simple because I listen to a lot of songs on my hearing aid, but I remember one time like I listened to a song I listened to all the time with like just headphones, just like it was like, oh my gosh, there was all that stuff in the background. Like, was that because I was half deaf or just dumb? Like, whoa.
No, it's because, you know, you don't hear it, and especially if it's streaming. And I mean, streaming is bad enough, but satellite radio is even worse. I don't know why. Yeah. But it's there's so much that they put, so much effort that people put into these songs, and you don't hear it. You know,
right.
and headphones are great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I remember when I was a kid, you told me like if I would listen to an album through like just my speaker or my iPad or something. You're like, you need to listen to it with headphones.
Yeah.
And like I listened to it with headphones.
Bugged the heck out of me, man, because it's just this one mid-range screechy sound. I'm like, this is a great song. You need to hear it.
Yeah. And then I started listening to headphones, and I was like, wow,
this is great. Yeah.
Like even the comparison between AirPods and headphones. Yeah. There's an album I listened to like 7 times, you know, just on AirPods, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. And then I threw it on just like normal like surround sound headphones, and I was like, wow, I never heard that.
That's right.
Wow. It's almost as if my dad was right.
Oh man, the music guy was right about the music. That's crazy. The music
guy was right about the music. Who knew?
Yeah. Oh goodness, I'll take that W.
Yeah, my favorite headphones are probably these guys that I use all the time on the show, the ATH N30Xs from Audio-Technica, and I started listening to like my hi-fi and everything with this, and it's like, whoa. I didn't know there was so much like that was there. That even like subtle problems with like records and stuff. It's just like you'll hear weird like clicks and pops, and you'll hear like I've even heard on a couple records, I heard studio execs just talking before the song actually kicked in. Yeah, it's weird.
So weird.
Yeah, and you put the headphones on, and with vinyl, one of the weird things about it is like you'll start playing the record, and if you listen really carefully with headphones, you'll hear a really quiet version of the intro, a sort of quiet version of the intro, a little bit louder but still really quiet, and then the song kicks in, and it's just due to how those things were mastered.
Interesting.
And so yeah. I know Jack White actually is starting a record plant here, where he's going to start making them.
Excellent.
And he's got a whole like museum and everything, kind of like a little tour, and you can watch and like look in and see what's going on. So I think it's really happy, like I said, with the legacy formats and everything, and with like with radio. I think some songs just need more airplay than others.
Sure,
that's a big one. If I hear More Than a Feeling from Boston one more time, I am going to scream. I'm going to drive to the station and strangle their program manager.
That's a shame. I mean, you know, it's funny because I don't have my toe in radio as much, but the thing that's a bummer that I see is, for instance, you know, seemingly 70% of all the radio stations are owned by iHeartRadio.
Yep.
Right.
So there's no like band that's going to break in the Midwest anymore and then start to slowly get over, you know, and that was a great thing the way that happened, you know, and I agree with you because it's like there's I think it's Freebird is the number one. Or no, it's Sweet Home Alabama. One of those. I think it's Sweet Home is the number one played classic rock song. And
really,
and
interesting.
The thing is like it's a hard thing because I'll make it personal. You know, with all my Alice Cooper things.
Yep.
He put out an album in '89. Poison was his big hit.
Yep.
And it was a big hit. And I'm like, I get it. But like, you know, we could take this 5 minutes and use it for other, you know, other songs, right?
Yep.
And as sure as you know, all of a sudden Brice has got his first ticket to Alice Cooper. He's like, I hope he plays Poison. I'm like, dang it. That's exactly why, because there's always somebody new coming up, and the radio wants to keep them interested, so they're just going to keep beating to death those same 100 songs to make sure the new people are always there. And the people like us who want to get involved in listening to the whole album are kind of, you know, if we're lucky, we find a show like yours where there's actually the format is whatever people want to hear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and I think that's the thing that's kind of a lost art nowadays with all the, you know, conglomerates owning every single station. But it was I did this for my senior project. I did the whole like how the state of radio in North America, which led to me getting into specs and everything. But one of the things that was the statistic was like songs, whenever new songs get released, they don't even go to radio first anymore. They all go to Spotify, to Apple Music, to even YouTube even. And if the song does good there, then it goes to the top 40. And top 40 only airs maybe 23 songs. That's how low it's gotten to that point. So I think, do you think the audience has changed a lot with that in mind? Do you think the audience has changed much that it would like how would that impact you know, somebody getting into,
you know, that's a good question, and I feel like I think that it might not be such a change as just a way of doing things. Like I think that pop people will always be pop people, and so there's always going to like the radio or whatever. But I'm glad that, you know, due to the space of so much being out there, that there's always people that are going to grab something and they're going to show their friends, you know, and there always can be an organic build of a band, just because there are always people that refuse to be spoon-fed pop music that the radio wants to give you.
Right.
You know, and they're not getting much help and they're not making much money, but, you know, hopefully, you know, I know, you know, as doing it myself, we're always happy when people listen to you. Yeah. And, you know, and all that. So I think that I don't think that the overall it's changed. I just think the way that we have to do it's changed a little bit.
Okay.
I agree with that. I definitely think it's a larger, not just music, but like with movies and books and entertainment in general, where it's so much where it's like the most popular stuff is pushed super down your throat, and everything that's obscure or kind of weird or kind of cool is very much brushed to the side.
Exactly right.
Like,
exactly
I think of especially with streaming or whatever, where like you go on Netflix and like, here's the top 100 shows or top 10 shows people are watching. It was like, and like most of it is like stuff, you know, it's like, oh sure, well, Netflix has Seinfeld now, of course that's popular. Parks and Rec, Community, whatever Netflix original where teenagers find something stupid to do, of course that's on there. But the really cool stuff, you usually have to search for it. Most of the movies that I try to cover with my segment, or just like watch in general, I try to find the obscure stuff that not a ton of people have talked about, or just not the stuff that's like very widely marketed on like the you need to watch this movie. Nah.
Right. Yeah.
I just think it's largely people are scared of being original. Because I think that's a big thing, especially with music, to loop it all back around. Like, especially with when we go back to satellite, like sometimes I'm like listening to the radio and I've had to hear like Evanescence one more time,
Right.
like the "Bring Me to Life, Wake Me Up
Yeah,
Inside,"
Wake
whatever
Me
that
Up
stupid
Inside,
song's
yeah,
called.
yeah.
If I have to hear that song one more time, FM does it too. They're not perfect
they're
either.
not guilty.
Everyone
Everyone's
does
guilty
it.
of
If
it.
I have to hear that song one more time, I swear on my various action figures, I'm chucking the radio system out the truck. Like, it's
Right.
not lasting.
Right.
Play something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, and it's not it's more that the people that own the radio station, they need to sell the advertising.
Right.
And so
Yep.
they're not going to play anything else. Because if somebody changes that button, for 3 minutes, then they might miss the commercial, and then
Right.
you're in trouble.
Yep.
And that's a super big shame, because I think it used to be where you trusted a DJ.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I'm going to show you something new, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is cool. But now, we don't get that, sadly.
Yeah. It's, I mean, like, technically, like, there are DJs sometimes in satellite, but it's like, here's the song you've heard a billion times before. Yuck.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that accomplishing? Nothing. We know it.
We do. I get you. I'm with you 100%. I think now you're bumming me out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Me too.
Way to go, Charlie.
Oh, man, I made Bryce's dad sing.
Oh, man.
World record.
Wow.
Yeah.
I make everyone.
Stupid, you shook me all night long. I know I'm going to hear it on my way home.
Yeah, you know you will. You know you will. Oh,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's like it's a lost art, and like I would listen to like air checks of great DJs from back in the day, and like just how much it has changed since then. Like on this show, I know we are just kind of wild and crazy. That's our thing, right?
Yeah, that's our marketability. That's our
Right.
bit. That's our bit at this point.
Yeah. But even on like
It works.
yeah, it does work. There you
Thank
go.
you.
But I think it's just a lost art that needs to come back, but I'm not really sure how it will. Just with how much it's changed, it's hard to go back and try it again, because we're like, because everything nowadays is just either it's all played from a computer. I mean, on our show we've played cassettes, we play vinyl all the time.
Yeah.
Nobody else does that. I think we are the only show here in Southeast Michigan to play vinyl, which is
Ain't that nuts?
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like anything, it's going to take people to eventually get sick of what they're currently seeing and make a change.
Yeah, or that one idea,
Right.
just because it's like all the odds are stacked against you. It's like, oh well, what if we do a podcast to bring new music to people? Okay, well, good luck. There's 10 billion podcasts
Exactly.
too. There's no way to get the attention of the public. Or is there? It just hasn't been figured out yet.
You just got to work hard at
That's
it.
that's what you got to do, is figure out how to get that attention.
Right.
Yeah. I think with the new generations and things that are starting to roll in, because I know like Apple Music has their Apple Music One station where it's just kind of a whole bunch of shows with a whole bunch of songs. It's stuff you don't ever hear. And I'll listen to it sometimes. I know Huey Lewis actually does have a show on there.
Wow.
And Huey Lewis has a whole show where he does all kinds of like 80s songs and
Does
like
he give
80s
the
rock.
news?
Sometimes yes.
Okay.
Sometimes
thank
yes.
gosh.
I know it's something you have to make sure.
I had to ask.
Keep them in check. Yeah, but I think with just the new generation, I mean, they have to keep local radio around. You can't get rid of it. I know I'm. This is a total plug right now, but tell your congressman we need AM radio in cars.
No, tell Ford. They were trying to get rid of it too.
Ford kept it. They reversed their decision.
Well, I know, because everyone got mad.
Yeah, but Congress is trying to get rid of it. That means it gets rid of WPON. That gets rid of us. It gets rid of the backbone of the emergency alert system.
True.
You need to keep this around. So tell your congressman. There's tons of ads going around right now. I'm sure you'll probably catch it. There's a phone number you can text. I know you can text radio to it, and you can they'll send a message to them
Right.
for it. So, but yeah,
That's a very weird note to end out the show.
it's a very weird
Yeah.
note. But yes, you need to keep it. Just saying, throwing it out there. It's a PSA for everyone.
True.
But
So I noticed we didn't play any songs this hour. But
Yeah, those great discussions though.
Dad, is
great.
there anywhere
This
we
is a
can
great
listen to your music?
Aw, thanks. I'll give you $5 for that.
Hey,
Hey, paid for the plug.
Yes, my digital music streaming.
You got a name?
Yeah, BobbyGus.com.
All right.
BOBBYGUS, BobbyGus.com. If you'd like to hear my songs, I'd love for you to hear them.
Yeah.
Because that's why we do it.
Exactly.
There you go. We love playing your stuff on our show too.
And I've heard
So-
that, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for
See,
sure.
that's why you're right. We need the radio.
Exactly. Yeah, and radio is the biggest way to discover songs, and we love playing your music too because you're a fantastic artist. I love
why I
it.
got-
I listen to your stuff all the time.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's why you have to have good DJs like Aaron.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really, really do. It's very kind, and it's encouraging because sometimes there's no other reason to do it,
Right.
Right.
and so that's nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is. Oh my goodness, it's already 6 o'clock. How
Yep.
about that?
Yeah.
That's why
crazy.
I was kind of leaning it in.
You were leaning it in there. Yeah.
I was checking the time going, we are going.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Well, it's going to bring us to the end of our show. Thank you again, Bobby G, for being on the show
My
with us.
pleasure. I had a great time with you guys, and I do enjoy the show when I'm not on it. I enjoy listening
Thank
to you
you.
guys.
Thank
You
you.
got a
Probably
good
one of
thing.
my favorite conversations I think we've ever had.
Yeah.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's good
Absolute
stuff.
Pleasure.
All right. Well, we will be on next week, same time, same place.
Same bat channel?
Yes. Yes. And we'll be having Dustin on.
Not next week.
Not next week.
The
Okay.
week after that, I think, right?
Possibly. It's
We don't know.
We're still working
couple
it
weeks.
out.
We're still
We
working
don't
that
know.
out because
But,
camp's coming up and fun.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll make a playlist. I'll see what's going on. Probably no theme next week, but we'll see.
Maybe
It'll be
there will
another
be.
fun show with the boys.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, always a good time. All right. Well, we will see you all next week. Same time, same place. God bless, and have a good one.
Stay safe, America.
You're in tune with Detroit's only local station, WPON, Walled Lake, Detroit.
Talking oldies.
WPON